What is scene, everybody? What's up? Welcome back to yet another episode of Global Sports from a Caribbean Perspective, one GSCP. And before I go any further, the team here at GSCP have recently experienced a major loss. We've lost someone very close, very dear to our hearts. We want to say right now, rest in peace to Gasroy Ferguson, aka DJ Swagger. And before we go any further here on GSCP, we want to take a minute silence, just observe a minute silence in honor, in respect, in love to our fallen brother. So to our bro, our brethren, rest in peace as you take your rightful place amongst the ancestors. And as we dive straight in to today's episode, what a whopper, boy.
A lot to talk about.
Lots and lots to discuss, man. It's September. The top 5 European leagues are well and truly kicking. The ball is rolling, so to speak. I mean, it rolling so much we done in an international break.
International break already.
Yo, I tired of this thing. Every time we just had this, what, two months.
3 weeks. Oh, 2 months off.
It's so much. If we could even say so much. Nah, man, we gotta talk about this football schedule. It is bordering. Well, not bordering. It is past the line of, ridiculous. We really moving into some insane timing and scheduling and fixtures right now. I feel like we don't really get a break to not see the players, but at the same time, we still find ourselves missing certain formats and but it feels constant.
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't gotten to see any yacht pictures or any, on the beach pictures and snaps so much. You usually see one or two party, you see them man linking up in different countries
That's so true.
and taking different vacations, family vacation, little vacation with your teammates and so forth. But right now it seems to be gym, training field,
Work.
airport,
Matches.
bus,
Work.
hotel, back. It's constant. While we do appreciate it, I mean, we love the beautiful game. We would love nothing more than to come here every single week on GSCP and talk about everything taking place in global sports from a Caribbean perspective. But at the same time, we have to express our concern with the scheduling, particularly as it relates to football. And I mean, we're already seeing it starting to creep into some of the major to some of the major teams. We're seeing some of the teams that we thought, well, they have no problems, man. Nice squad depth and so on. We're already seeing one or two injuries in key positions, and that looking like it's already going to start challenging what the season might start shaping up to be. So certainly we have a lot of movements. Speaking about movements, money spending too. Cash splashing. Well, at least in the Premier League.
At least, yes.
La Liga, we're moving
Cheap.
So, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. I ain't gonna call your name, big man, but looking at you. We need to start to see something happening with these FFP regulations in La Liga, boy. We might get left in the dark.
Already in the dark.
Spending wise, we in the dark.
Already, to be fair. Not on the field.
No, we know sporting wise, the technical quality should shine through.
Yes.
How long would that be able to hold out against bigger wallets, bigger pools of talent coming from all the different places in the world?
I guess the big two in Spain would always be dominant for the most part, regardless of the Premier League spending power. However, the remainder of Spain would, and including Atletico Madrid, despite them spending millions each summer, it's not necessarily top tier players like we would see heading to Newcastle United and Aston Villa and the likes. So in time to come, in maybe 5 years from now, who knows? I guess this is why the president of La Liga is even trying to play, which something I don't agree with, playing La Liga games abroad, right? But I guess that's all a ploy, to get income in,
Yeah, more
facilitate
attention, more
the
marketing.
spread of the money between all 20 teams better, so that they could get better players in. But the gap between the Premier League and everybody else in terms of spending is clearly a problem.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the Premier League wouldn't see it as a problem because they would just be living in the millions and
Of course, loving life, attracting the biggest players, the
Correct.
best names.
correct. But
You know?
but then this is what would lead those teams who aren't in the Premier League to call for things like the Super League, all right? Because it would bring more equality. But I guess at the same time, not necessarily, because only big teams would be in the Super League. So it's a tricky, very tricky topic, the money thing.
Certainly. And right now, one of the teams in the Premier League that we definitely see and splashing the cash, so to speak, is Liverpool. Dappy, what do you think about Liverpool's wrap up to it? I know before we had a discussion earlier on GSCP, we were talking about the predictions for the leagues. We might have to later in this episode, revisit some of those predictions, because I remember us saying if certain transfers go through, then we might see the league, shifting just a bit. And in fact, so said, so done. Isak has made that move. Liverpool have got them, and just to say that alone, that might be throwing some shadow on the other. They've got not just their man, but they've got several new signings. They've really done that investment after, of course, losing their star striker. Investments that we know that they probably would have had to made, but most persons might not have expected such a rebuild in such a short space of time. What do you think Liverpool is up to?
Good recruitment, all in all. The amount of money spent for them is, something that we can question. Excuse me, but I believe is that we are at a point in the whole football life where teams call how much you want, and if you're not able to pay it or you don't want to pay it, then you go your way. And player power is a thing. So we see it with Isak, we see it with Wissa, we seen it with a couple other players who decided to stay and be a professional. They didn't get their moves like Gahey and Strand Larson, and those who were unprofessional, like the likes of Isak and Wissa. So it showed that player power is a thing, but I also feel like the amount of money that teams ask is so exorbitant, bro. Like Woltemada, 90 million for 12 goals last season is actually crazy, So I think that it's a bit too much.
So you'd say the market is a little inflated, right?
Too inflated, especially since that whole Neymar saga in 2018. I know you would hate it, but
bad memories, boy.
Yeah.
I wanna jump in on the player power topic before we skip past it, because I think it's very important. The way that Isak operated this summer, more so than Visa, is a bad precedent for football, basically. Because what Isak showed there is that, you could skip training, request a transfer despite having years left on your contract,
and still be
right?
rewarded.
And still be rewarded with your dream move, despite it taking it all the way down to the last day of the transfer window. So I think that Isak set a bad precedent, and it's gonna lead to other players doing this,
the same thing.
unfortunately, in the future. And then now the clubs are gonna have to try to do something to counter that, right? Which would lead to certain stipulations within their contract and that kind of thing. So I think that what Isak did there has set a very bad precedent, and is something that needs to be addressed before it gets out of hand. I mean, player power has always been there, and we could also relate it to other sports like basketball, where players could basically pick whichever team they go on.
A lot more power,
right?
in terms of negotiating their contracts and so.
So we need to stop whatever Isak is trying to create before it becomes that kind of basketball culture.
I see it. We've seen transfer sagas though. We've seen, clubs tapping up players and talking to them before their contracts are out. We've seen different transfer policies by clubs, perhaps waiting until somebody has, a year left on their contract so that they have a little bit more leverage. So we know that in the transfer market, there are some, maybe some less than agreeable practices all across the board.
True.
But what happened with Isak actually reminded me of something that happened with a player that the club I support tried to sign. I remember when Barcelona was trying to sign Dembele from Borussia Dortmund, and it was a very similar situation in terms of the skipping, the training, I mean, of course, some of these things are rumors and things that fly around in the tabloids and in the media trying to, incite more interest in the things. And these things also, what we have to pay attention to, the amount of social media marketing and so on behind these things. These things are also generating income and generating interest in the player and sometimes driving player value up higher. I mean, I know the agents for sure take advantage of it, especially when they're trying to even if you're not leaving your club, when you're negotiating for a new contract.
Like you see Fabrizio Romano.
Exactly. You see these agents and these different media pundits and so on kind of pushing the issue and, talking about
Every
a
day.
certain transfer before it really happens. Every day you're getting all of these updates and all of these play-by-play of what is taking place. You have to wonder, what is the real benefit towards it? Is it that all of that marketability is what drives the transfer, or is it solely based on sporting, as we are led to believe that, okay, we want this particular player to play. Remember, we're talking about this sport. We want this particular athlete to play for this particular team and to accomplish a certain goal. And oftentimes you see it where, I mean, even my club guilty of it. Sometimes you see them, you sign a player and it's like the sporting part of it is the last part of the transfer.
True.
You see the coach at the end of it, trying to now figure out, where do I put this player? How does this player fit into my current system or what I'm trying to achieve? So I really do agree that we need to look at that and try and nip that in the bud and try to see if we could get some parity, because I mean, when you think about the younger players coming up and the younger talent,
It's only gonna get worse.
Yeah. It only get worse, bro.
Also, before we move off of the transfer topic, just like we were speaking about Isak, it's a conversation that me and Dappy were having off camera about basically Liverpool's balance now that they have Isak in their squad, right? Because they started the season well with Ekitike up front as the 9, with Gakpo on the left and Salah on the right, with Votes in behind. And to be fair, it's been working well. They've won all 3 games so far, scoring goals in every game. So Isak now is the most expensive transfer in the Premier League history. He's gonna have to start eventually. So Slot is gonna be left with a very hard decision as to who to bench in that team, right? So it's very interesting. I find it very interesting, and it's gonna be some teething problems for sure. Because if you just look at when Madrid brought in Mbappe last year into a winning team, just like how Liverpool were a winning team last season, and they basically had to shoehorn Mbappe into the side regardless of balance. So it's basically gonna be the same with Isak, and make it worse that Ekitike started the season so well. It's gonna be very interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah, just to add a bit, I believe it might be so hard. Honestly speaking, just looking from the outside, because Gakpo is actually a winger. I feel like his spot is actually secured, and Ekitike will have to fight with Isak. He will get some minutes on the left
For sure.
I believe so, but most of it would come through the center
For
Ekitike.
I have to agree with that, but I'm just thinking about the price tag of Ekitike as well, and the start of the season that he had as well. But Gakpo also started the season well, so Isak may have to start on the bench.
No doubt. The
For
first few games off the bench,
and,
no doubt.
And this is what we talk about when it comes to the market value and the sporting project.
Correct.
Because with the inflation that we're seeing in the market, a younger, lesser experienced player right now is going for the price that maybe 5-10 years ago somebody with at least a 5 years good proven quality at a top European club would go for. So now what we kind of see, and especially from these fans, us as fans, we are starting to put the sporting expectation in line with the transfer
Correct.
value.
Correct.
So ex-player costs upwards of 50 million euros. This must be this level quality of player. And what we're not realizing is that market value is established not necessarily
By player quality.
just by the player quality alone, but other factors like age, you know, the position that they actually playing,
Years
the
left on the
availability,
contract. Yeah.
the years left on the contract, marketability, and all of these different things that we put in parity with, okay, expecting, my club spend X amount for this player, so this must be a bad man.
True.
You understand? This must be a talented player. This must be a wall beater who's going to come in and score bags of goals, or come in and lock down the midfield, or come in and command the defense, or come in and save every single shot that they facing. And that's just not the reality. That is not how sporting projects work. In fact, a lot of the times, good timing has a lot to do with a transfer working out.
Correct.
You know, at the right player in the right position at the right time for what a particular coach wants to do at that time. You know, sometimes you might see a person get signed one summer and it looks like it's a disaster signing. But something changes maybe in the coaching room, something changes in the boardroom, something changes with another teammate, and all of a sudden this looks like the perfect fit for the club. So we gotta look to try and balance that off just a bit. And speaking of trying to balance that, the earlier point that we were making with the difference between spending, do you think that the Premier League might start to eclipse other leagues, not just in terms of that spending, but realistically, if that spending is towards sporting prowess, then perhaps the Premier League might start really and truly running away from the other leagues in terms of quality? If you could afford to buy all the young talent, the best players, the most proven players, then I should assume that you have all the elements of being the undisputed best league in the world.
Yeah, spending all the money could get you all the best players in the world. But as a Madrid fan, I know that that doesn't always work out too well. Right? And at the end of the day, you could play the financial football match if you want to, but it's played on the field, so you come out to play. Like Vallecano did with Barca. So you have to come out to play at the end of the day. So while they might have more quality in terms of price tag and big name and so forth, at the end of the day, you have to come out and play. And it doesn't always work out. Look at Amorim. Spend money on Mbomo and Konya hasn't gone so well so far. So, I mean, it would take some time. It's just the point I'm bringing, that money doesn't always mean that you would play better football.
I would say that the Premier League. Okay, how do we define what is the best league? Do we determine it by the quality of the football on display from all 20 teams? Do we determine it by how successful the teams in that league are in European competition? Because if European competition is something that we're using to be a measure stick,
then La Liga definitely has it.
Then La Liga has it like overall. But like just for last season, for example, Tottenham won the Europa League and Chelsea won the Conference League, right? Arsenal and Club World Cup. Arsenal got to the semi-final in Champions League. So I'd say they're doing the league as a whole. Just for that past season, if we're doing the most recent evidence, they're doing well for themselves. True. To be fair, right? So, and in the past years, we've seen City won the Champions League, we've seen Chelsea won the Champions League, and we've seen Liverpool. This is all within the last 10 years. So, I agree that Spain has the better quality on the field. Technical quality from 1 to 20, for sure. However, the Premier League from 1 to 20, probably 20 in England would be 20 in Spain. Teams like West Ham and Crystal Palace and the likes would demolish the mid-table teams in La Liga, and that's just me having to be fair, right? So, and that has all to do with the spending power as well, because those teams are highly inflated by the monies that they're able to spend. So it's very hard to determine what makes a league
The best
the
league.
best league. I think it just depends on what your opinion is, or what your determining factor is, because I like to use European competition as the determining factor, not necessarily 1 to 20, right? Because we would hardly ever see 20
That
versus
matchup.
20.
Yeah.
Right?
Fair.
So what you're saying basically is that the quality of, let's say, maybe 12 or 15 to 20 in the Premier League might be, eclipsing the quality of that same measure in
That's exactly what I'm saying, because the teams below the top six, the traditional top six in the Premier League, the traditional top
Newcastle.
six is United, City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, and Tottenham.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody below that, those teams have immense spending power.
Yeah, we see
Immense spending power.
Just show the broadcast.
So the likes of Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest and those teams,
Brighton,
Brighton, Bournemouth,
Villa.
Wolves, those teams, Aston Villa, Newcastle, those teams would kill the teams from 6 to 13, 14 in La Liga. And it's not necessarily that they have better players. They do have better players because they have access to spend more money. So in theory, in theory and practical, they do have better players. But it's not necessarily the fairest measuring stick based on the financial gap. Right? So what I like to use as the measuring stick between which league is the best is how they do in Europe. And as Madrid have shown over the years, and Sevilla and Atletico Madrid and Barca, when it comes to the European competitions, we rule, and there are stats to prove that. So that would always be my measuring stick to determine what league is better, and not necessarily the 1 to 20.
Yeah, we see a lot of discussion talking about, the competitiveness of the Premier League as well, as compared to maybe some of the other leagues. I mean, we hear a lot of talk about Spain being, it's a two-horse race and all of these different kind of things. So I do concede in that particular point. And just as you said, the European competitions tends to level that playing field between the established clubs, in terms of clubs that have been successful, clubs that have been, historically or traditionally successful, as well as those clubs that are now in the conversation, not necessarily because of that, let's say, quote unquote pedigree, but they've done smart investment, they've done good business, or they've had good sporting projects at certain points, and they've gotten to similar levels of success as well. What we see now is, just like you were saying earlier, Dapi, it's played on grass, it's played on the day. So not necessarily because you can spend more money than another team means that you will win out on the day. You still have to come out and play football.
For sure.
And what we're seeing right now in the European competition, or particularly in the UEFA Champions League, with this new format that we have, is a lot more opportunities for some of that leveling of the playing field that we're talking about. In the most recently concluded, I want to talk about the upcoming installation of it, but in the most recently concluded one with that new format, we actually saw a lot of opportunities and actually did see a lot of what we call giant killing. Smaller teams coming up against the big guns, and matching them, going toe to toe. I mean, I saw some clubs that spent barely 5-10 million euro, and you wouldn't tell from looking at the midfield battle in some of those games. You wouldn't be able to tell from looking at, the way that some of these games in the group phase progress. I mean, the team that won the competition all the way up in the group phase was sitting where somewhere between 16th and 20 something or something like that. So it definitely isn't a case of, well, more money than you, but we do see that we still have to, keep track of the spending that is going, because at the same time, we want to see the beautiful game being played. And we want to see a lot of great things happening. And we want to see a lot of great things in this upcoming edition of the UEFA Champions League. I want we talk straight. I want we say it with chest. Who you got? Who's your favorites? Which team you're looking at? Who's your dark horse? Who you're watching and saying, boy, this team could, maybe give you a run for your money. I know, of course, you guys are fans of the White House, but at the same time, outside of your own club, who do you see in the upcoming fixture? I'll go Dappy, then Sham.
Bayern Munich, jump out
Mhm.
straight off the bat. Vincent Company, Gunman Kane, Michael Olise, they seem to be building something special. Early days, of course, but they seem to be building something special. They played, I think it was Leipzig recently, and you thought it would be, a nice little competition between both teams, and Bayern seemed just
They
to
demolish them.
demolish them quite easily. So, yeah, I believe Bayern, they were kind of, out of it last season and not fully on top of the game, but I believe this season, Vincent Company doing something special there, man.
I'm with you on that, especially given y'all know my feelings towards Hurricane. Yeah, big up. So Harry, big up yourself. Just because I just really like his style as a striker. Is a player I would have loved to have
Poetry in
at
motion.
my club. I just always think that a great world class striker would work well in any proper setup.
Same.
And I do think that Company he sort of putting the right tools around him to like constantly be unlocking defenses. I really like the wing play that Olise is working with. And I think that with enough support from the rest of the squad, because they have a deep enough squad to give that sort of support, then they can go deep again into the competition. Not to say they were already, they had a good run, a decent run last year. So I might be looking out for Bayern as well. The only thing is, again, Bayern Munich, if you're looking for a replacement for Manuel Neuer,
Yeah, just a little side
You're
note, the
looking-
question marks over the defense still, of course. But yeah, apart from that.
that's why I'm offering them, if you're looking for a German wall, a proven shot stopper,
This guy.
somebody to really defend the old onion bag on your behalf, then boy, oh boy, do I have the player for you. Come on, Bayern, give me a call.
Sure.
Call us right down there on the coast in Spain. Call us. You understand? We'll be willing to negotiate. We're willing to discuss. All respect for my club captain, mi capitan. But it is time to get this situation under control. Me and like to see a man playing number one in preseason, and we'll get to that. Who you got? Shava?
Okay, so I think that the favorites for the Champions League are clear. I don't think the winners would come out of any teams apart from Real Madrid or Barcelona, the defending champion, Paris. However, the two teams that I would like to highlight as potential winners are very likely winners are from England. All right?
Liverpool and who?
Liverpool and Arsenal. All right? Liverpool, main...
I'm sorry, boy.
The man laughing at me.
I don't know.
The man laughing at me. The same Arsenal team that beat Madrid home and away last year.
I guess a little bitter. It's gotta be bitterness, but Arsenal fans, boy.
I have seen Arsenal is the best defensive team probably in Europe.
Yes. Go on.
Number one.
I fully agree.
Right?
Let me guess.
No, I serious all the time.
Fully agree.
Arsenal is the best defensive team in Europe probably. They've added attacking flair and goal scoring prowess in Gyökeres, Esse,
How for do it?
and Madueke. They've added depth to their team, a team that already went to the semi-final last year and pushed the team who eventually won very far in that two-legged semi-final. While they might not have enough to win the league because it's a 38-game struggle and they might not have enough over Liverpool. But in a knockout competition, when you could sit back over two legs and you get some magic from Saka and a header from Gyökeres or something, or a bullet header from Saliba or Gabriel from a corner, Arsenal have what it takes. Arsenal have the ingredients, right, and the intangibles to win the Champions League. as someone who knows like what it takes, right? Right, from being a fan perspective, knows what it takes to win that competition. Arsenal have those intangibles. So while they may not have it in the league, for me,
In a
Arsenal
knockout phase competition.
in a knockout phase competition, and like I said, they breezed past us last year, home and away. Right? That's enough for me to put them up there as contenders, not necessarily over us, or not necessarily over Barca, for example. But like you said, like somewhat as a dark horse candidate, I would put Arsenal there, even over Bayern Munich, who you guys mentioned, to be very honest.
Fair. I know I laugh for them. But Arsenal, let me explain my feelings towards this team, right? It's a team that I have always enjoyed watching. But because I've always enjoyed watching Arsenal, I understand Arsenal's shortcomings. I don't know if it's the mystic, but they just no disrespect at all. Like I say this with love. They give me Miss Congeniality vibes. You understand? Like
what you mean.
they give me
Run-up vibes, right?
runner-up vibes, bro. They give me, you understand, MVP-ish type vibe, but like not the actual MVP because the MVP comes from the side that eventually wins, but like most honorable mention type vibes. I don't know what it takes to push past that barrier. I don't know if actually winning out one of these large competitions, like finally winning the Premier League or finally winning the Champions League, might change that vibe that they give me. But they just give me that vibes, bro. Like it's a team that you always want to love, but it's like the end goal of it. I mean, not to say you're only watching to see them win silverware or something, but it's like sometimes you follow the project and it's almost like they just have that one level. So if they could really do it, finally do it, I would be one of the first persons to, hands up and clap. But to put you to say, I don't know, boy, maybe I've been disappointed far too many times to really give them that edge. But I do agree in terms of saying that they are going to be there in and amongst the conversation.
For sure.
Definitely, I'll give them that.
Sure.
A team that I want to mention might be an easy team to mention given that they just won the competition, but we have to talk about the defending champions, particularly because all you know, I have my biases. I am a really really huge Luis Enrique fan. And I think that he kind of has cracked a particular code with his style of football. And you spoke a while ago about ingredients. I think that he has a really nice blend of youth and experience that he's working with right now that could actually continue to give that challenge. I mean, winning the Champions League back to back is one of the hardest things to do. We've only seen
Winning it once is hard.
It's incredibly difficult, but I do think that he is going to have one of the hardest teams to beat, especially in the group phase. Right now we're seeing, one or two little kings. I think they have some injury concerns right now. Ousmane Dembele is out for maybe another month. I think they're playing us pretty soon, actually. PSG and Barca have an upcoming fixture maybe within the next month or so. But at the same time, I think just off of that high of winning the competition itself and those players being perhaps gaining a little bit more confidence and so on, I think they're going to be a difficult outfit to face in the group stage as compared to how they fared in the group stage last season. I'm not sure if they can go out to win out again, but I do see them being there in the latter stages of the competition for sure this year. So we had some good shouts. Let's take it all the way. Which club you have winning out? Trick question. Which club you seriously? Which club you have winning out?
Okay. So, Heart
Mhm.
says Real Madrid, 1000%,
Mhm.
and I could give logical reasons. The squad quality is obvious. There's multiple Champions League winners in that team. Been there, done that before. Probably the best player in the world. Probably, I don't know, the top 5 player in the world up there with him. goals galore. We have probably the best goalkeeper in the world. We have a renewed defense with Dean Housen and Eder Militao back to full fitness. Danny Carvajal back. Alvaro Carreras looking great. Chouameni looking great. Bellingham not even back as yet. I see no reason why we can't win it. Even at our worst seasons, we win this competition. Right? I don't see why not. But that's hard. Right? Mind and brain and my logical, unbiased football opinion on who's going to win the Champions League is Liverpool. The addition of Isaac adds serious firepower to an already stacked attack.
Yeah, we said it.
Right? And all of the things that I mentioned earlier in terms of balance would not matter in a competition like the Champions League. So just as I stated for Arsenal, where their squad is suited for knockout competition, so is Liverpool. Because in a two-legged tie, round of 16 quarter, semi, outscore. They would more than likely outscore any team. A Liverpool-Barca matchup would be crazy right now. Right? So I think that Liverpool have what it takes. Slater has shown to be a very competent manager. And I don't think he would make the same mistake twice last year by not giving his team more rotations around the Champions League knockout stage time. So I'm going to go officially for Liverpool to win the Champions League.
No, nice shout. Trust me, and they're looking, like we said. I mean, we even in an earlier episode we were talking about some of our predictions for the Premier League, and we were talking about City, talking about Arsenal, even talking about Chelsea. But we did mention that should that Isak transfer go through, then we're talking about perhaps a completely different team. And that's scary to think about. I mean, they've already made some great investments, but that you have to say is it's one of those statement signings, boy. And knowing Isak from La Liga days, I have full confidence that it's going to be business as usual up in that box for him, bro. Like, I don't think he's one of those maybe players. I think he's real deal, real steel up top, bro.
For sure.
It's one of the players that I wish my club would have signed before he made that move over to the Premier League with maybe a little bit of better planning on our side. Dappy, who you got?
I'm still sticking with Bayern.
Still sticking with
Bayern Munich. I see Shaba's argument for Liverpool. But the question is if they have the squad. Like, yes, they have the firepower, but that's in the attack we're talking about. We've seen that they've struggled in this season. They've struggled to score already. Even though they have scored, they have struggled to.
Yeah.
They haven't looked like the same fluent Liverpool. So I still believe like Frimpong, Corkers will need time to just fully catch himself in the squad. Konate, mine is not there, as you said earlier, off camera, guys. So I just feel like there are certain question marks over them. I have them to win the Premier League, but I just don't feel like they fully have enough of the squad depth. Gravenberch goes out, then we put in the McAllister, we put in the Szoboszlai, so they're still missing that replacement player for, that pivot role. So, yeah, still some question marks over them, and that's one of the reasons why I don't feel like they would go all the way.
Cool. I have some follow-up questions about some particular clubs. How do we think Chelsea is gonna do being back in the Champions League?
Okay, so
they're coming off an interesting run, and if history would tell us anything, remember Chelsea was the team to win the Europa League, and then almost immediately after come and win the Champions League. My question is now, given them winning, let's say not the Europa League, but the other competition, so even further step down the totem pole in winning the Conference League, but beating the Champions League
quite a
winners
statement.
in the Club World Cup is quite the statement, quite the way to re-announce yourself back on the big European stage. And I know we've mentioned Chelsea before, by the way.
Jackson is gone.
Jackson is gone. So
Jackson is at Bayern.
Jackson is at Bayern now.
Jackson is at Bayern.
See, you're trying to run from the duppy. He put up in the cup.
You would only play if Kane. You'd only play if Kane is out, innit?
Yeah, he can only play if Kane is out. So you ain't got much to worry
Yeah,
about.
you was saying about
Your
Chelsea.
boy Jackson. But see, talking about Chelsea, how do we see them faring? I don't want to say back amongst the big boys, but back in the big competition, big A's. You wonder what you all looking for? Do you all want to win?
I don't think Chelsea would necessarily be within the top 4 contenders for the Champions League, because when I mentioned the teams from England earlier, Arsenal and Liverpool, there's still Man City, who I would still say is in a better position to do better in the Champions League than Chelsea. All right. So Chelsea has a very young squad. It would be the first time in the Champions League for a lot of them, especially and the coach as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I want to put them up there with the likes of the teams that were mentioned earlier. However, they are a big club. They do deserve the respect that we are showing them here. But I don't think they are necessarily a contender for the Champions League, despite beating PSG in the Club World Cup final. I don't think that's a indicator for what is to come this season.
I get that. There's another club I want to mention, but I'm not gonna ask a question. I feel a bit of a rant coming on. Big up Thirsty Water, keeping me hydrated right now, so I could say what I have to say. FC Barcelona. Right. I don't like to beat up on my club, but I like to talk straight when things going crooked. It's been it's been a rough couple of years as a Barcelona fan, not from a sporting perspective, but I have had to become an accountant. I've had to become an economic analyst. I have had to become an expert in FFP. I've had to become an expert in registrations. I've had to become an expert in construction and engineering. And I thank you very much to the management of my club for, giving me that type of experience and all of these different things. It's just been an interesting experience just dealing with it. Feels like sometimes as a Barca fan, you deal with almost everything outside of the sport. It's a constant barrage of, this issue running into that issue, running into this issue. And credit to John Laporta and his board for coming in and fixing obviously what was a disastrous situation. I don't even think that we have the full scope or understanding of how bad of a situation his board probably inherited from the last president, he who shall not be named. I'm not calling that name on this blessed podcast. You understand? But obviously, it's a horrible financial situation. But at the very same time, just some of the ways in which the issues run into each other, you cannot tell me that is not having an impact on players. I mean, just pick out the issue with Danny Olmo and his registration last year, for example. He was our statement signing, 60 million euros invested in acquiring this player, but yet he couldn't be registered. He couldn't be registered. And it's a injury that helped his registration. And then when that player came back, we had to go to court to get the man to play again. I mean, we know we are changing and developing things. We know the stadium is under construction, yet you're hearing, oh, it's going to be ready this date, it's going to be ready that date, it's going to be ready this date. And all these pushbacks now we're hearing for this season coming up. That's why we've played the first 3 games away in the first place, hoping to get back to the Camp Nou, only to hear that we're going to be playing at the Estadio Johan Cruyff in front of maybe 6,000 people which I was reading a news article. It said that's maybe the smallest
Ground in La Liga.
ground in La Liga in the last century.
That's bad.
One of the top clubs in Spain is about to play a home match at the smallest venue
$6,000.
played in the century. It is, we're gone from sadness to madness.
Multi
Right?
shop.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I can't be on a platform like this and not, say something. It's not really like I speak out, and maybe I just, getting my feelings out, I just ranting and just getting it there. But right now, I can't even mention my club to say, and it hurts because we have a great coach now, just had a great season, wonderful sporting project, looking like, it might be getting back to some of the, not just the glory days of the past, but getting back to being amongst the top conversation in Europe. And now we have a Inigo Martinez size hole in the defense. Barcelona looking for sell-off players and want to ship this one here and ship this one there just to meet up with these regulations and so on. And it goes back to what we were saying with this difference between La Liga spending and the Premier League. I think a lot of people, the point and laugh kind of think, oh, Barca broke and this and that. But are we not seeing that? Is the same thing happening with majority of the other La Liga clubs? Nobody in La Liga ain't spending no money like that. A whole heap of stringent restrictions. Some of the top clubs, some of the historic clubs in La Liga, Sevilla, Valencia, Real Sociedad, they are losing their best players. They're becoming selling clubs. La Liga is becoming a talent farm for some of the other leagues. So I don't know where we go from here in terms of these FFP regulations and everything that's going on. But I could just say, as a Barca fan, I tired, bro. I real tired of the background circus and all the noise. It's a lot to keep up with, and you could tell, just had to get that off my chest. If any other Barca fans can relate,
It's quite hilarious watching you guys post registrations as if they are successful transfers that just happen.
It's a very nuanced discussion. It's a very nuanced discussion
Yeah.
because the average football fan would not be able to dissect Barcelona's financial situation the way Prime just did. And even then, after it was dissected to you, the average football fan would still not be able to understand most of it, right? Because I guess most football fans were just, watching the game, and that's it.
The game was watching.
Right? But the kind of stuff that you went into I be watching it as, from the other side, thinking, this is crazy work, bro. Crazy work.
Thank you very
You know
much.
what I'm saying? The difficulty to register players, the inability to spend, it's crazy. But the fact that you guys are still able to produce success on the field, is a testament to number one, the coach. I was gonna say number one, the academy. I was gonna say the academy, number one.
True.
Right? Because with or without Hansi Flick, there would still be a Lamine Yamal, there would still be a Pedri, and there would still be a Gavi, and etc. etc.
So Pedri, but no problem.
You understand? You get my point, right? You get my point. So I would force to big up the La Masia academy because that is what is basically keeping Barca afloat. That is what is keeping Barca afloat, if we're being real.
Keep happening again and again.
Because if Lamine Yamal didn't come out of nowhere and become this star, who knows where you guys would have been in the past, let's say 3 seasons when you guys have won, multiple competitions due to his brilliance. So, despite the off the field trouble, right, there is still the shining light of the team being, successful on the pitch would
definitely
paper over some of those cracks.
And it's Viva La Masia for me till eternity, big up the farmhouse. But what worries me is that having this talent factory, it's almost, I don't want to say it's being wasted by any means, because right now at least we're seeing a lot of it. But you have to wonder how much potential we wasted in between those years where you saw he who shall not be named, who was running my club into the ground, focusing on, keeping up with the Joneses. So you want to be, even though you have the best academy in world football, you want to be the club spending the most money. 100 million over here, 100 million over there. You want to be investing poorly, not getting the returns, and then we're in a situation now where I actually worried for the future of the club, because we to continue to compete, even though it's La Masia that has allowed us to compete, you have to also recognize that it is some targeted interventions in terms of investments, economic levers being pulled. We're selling off TV rights, we're selling off media rights, we're selling off future
Rights to the stadium.
future revenue. Basically, you're taking a loan based on future income to try and offset certain things. And we've made huge investments. The club has still been spending a lot of money. Kunde, Lewandowski, Dani Almo, Rafinha. Them players, they wasn't cheap. You understand? Them players weren't cheap at all. So the club is still in that same habit of spending. And I can understand what Joan Laporta did in terms of, okay, the virtuous cycle. If I invest some money now and talent and keeping the club at a certain level, then that will generate more income, generate more marketability for the club, and keep us at a certain level for longer. Hopefully that by the time that we get to that point, we'll be earning even more, so that we'll be able to repay some of these loans and so on that we've taken. But one of the biggest Achilles heel to the situation right now is the not returning to that 1-for-1 rule that La Liga has, and that is the FFP regulation that I'm talking about. Basically, you can only spend as much as you are earning. So this in, that out, and returning to that had been difficult for us given how much we had spent already. So it's coming like you're already in the red and you're not generating anything. And that is why you see a lot of focus on trying to shift this player out, or trying to get this person who's on this huge contract to go elsewhere. That's why you see us giving away people for free. And I don't doubt that Inigo Martinez, he's a centre-back. So this whole argument about the age, I don't get, because he is the age for a centre-back, in my opinion. You at least want some experience in your team. And yes, he is earning more money over in Saudi Arabia, but the whole idea of shifting him out is that so you actually have an outgoing, so you can try to balance the books and register people that you're still getting in. You just sign a goalkeeper, you sign Marcus Rashford, well not signed, but you have him on loan, but he still has a wage bill to pay. You just sign a young talent, Rooney Bardaji. So we're still making, and I can understand having to make moves to try and keep the club moving and so on, but at the same time, the longer we don't return to the stadium, the less money you're making. Short sales not really going to cut it. If you can't get these players actually registered, then they can't help you from a sporting perspective. And I feel like we, 2 injuries and a bad performance away from disaster all over again. So it just feels very precarious. We just win the league and win the Copa del Rey, a domestic treble basically, if you are counting the Super Cup or whatever. But at the same time, we're going into a new season feeling like we're still about to rebuild yet again, like we're still about to play catch up, and dying faith to Hansi Flick, and dying faith to the young talent, and dying faith to the players who have been performing. So, I just stop and no. But I just wanted to contextualize what's going on at the club, and that is why I cannot sit here and say my club is a favorite for the Champions League, because those things in knockout format competitions are going to affect your ability to win out, basically.
Well said. Lewandowski haven't even playing for the season. Unfit.
Rough. But he's fit, because I just see him getting on with Poland in his red and white. And we just saw a number of other fixtures. Let's talk about this international break that we are currently in. That don't make no sense, because this season just started. Why are we even in an international break?
Well, it's a World Cup qualifier still going on.
But we now dual Nations League, brethren.
Well, it goes back to the point you were making about the schedule. They have to find somewhere to play these games. We have to find somewhere to play these games, because in less than 9 months we have a World Cup.
Right, and here my thing now, to borrow some the rand. Watch the money where the club's spending. and invest in, as we were talking about earlier. Look how much of an investment is being made into these players, contracts, insurance, their well-being, their future. And don't get me wrong, nationalism is something that I understand. And I understand how great it must feel to be able to represent your country at that level. But I think more synergy needs to start to happen between the national federations and the clubs. Especially if FIFA isn't going to give us any leeway in terms of the schedule, then we have to be people about this.
Yeah, I think.
We gotta be mature about this. And I feel like the push and pull situation between, and not particularly the federations and the clubs, but I feel like the coaches and them just be warring, bro. Like national team coach said one thing, club coach said the other. We see it a lot with, I'm a Spain fan. So I see it a lot with the Spain coach
Yeah.
and some of the coaches in La Liga. A La Liga coach might be saying, the player is injured or has some discomfort, and then the Spanish national team coach is saying, no, they can't play. Something, in my opinion, not to be biased, but something a little ridiculous, like playing, for 90 minutes. My club guilty of it too. We kind of rubbing the soap out right now. But something I forgive. We can't expect the players and them to just machine it out.
Wait, I'm attending the robots walking in doors.
Bro.
Like we said, there's only so many days in the year, basically. The games have to be played sometime. The schedule already tight as is. I agree that we shouldn't be overplaying the players, and we have to find some way to mitigate this. But the schedule is the schedule, and it's been this way for some time. In terms of when the season just starts, within the first 4 game weeks, there's an international break. There's gonna be another international break in October. There's gonna be one in November. So this is just something that we as fans and the players have, just gonna get accustomed to, because there's only so little time, but there are so many games to play. Because like we said, there's the World Cup next year, and then after that, they have to be playing Euro qualifications and that kind of thing. Don't forget, there are African teams as well who have to play African Cup of Nation qualifications and all those kind of things. All those Asian teams as well have to qualify for the Asia Cup. So it's not just tied to Europe. It's a worldwide football thing that we're just limited for time, and the games have to be played.
I feel like at any given point in time, I have my eye on about 6 different matches and 3 different competitions.
Always. Always.
Especially like as a casual fan, of course you're keeping track. But ever since we started, of course, talking, you want to pay a little bit more attention, and I've been trying to, make some time in my schedule to put in that little bit of extra interest in what is going on over here, what is going on over there. What I've realized is, bro. Israel football playing, isn't it?
Just sports in general, bro.
Yeah. Israel competition.
Yeah.
Don't even talk about NBA coming off off season pretty soon.
Yeah, just
see when me and the back the chilling. Pretty soon we are going to start even in terms of our episode structure, having some other discussions on other sports that are taking place. Definitely. But one thing that we already have with Iron Boy is that big competition next year. I know me and Shabba have already been discussing, and I know that people would come into it as well, taking that journey. Yeah, World Cup, yeah.
Yes.
2026, bro.
That makes sense.
In September, it's here.
Yeah.
I remember we having this conversation years ago, talking about, when it comes to, to our side closer, that's something that we're looking to be a part of.
For sure.
So let we talk. It's early days, but we have some teams already qualified and so forth. So let's talk World Cup. Who are the favorites? And I say that with a smile because the team that I support is definitely one of the favorites. But how this one is shaping up? We got defending champions Argentina. We know the whole story behind that with Lionel Messi. Might be a last dance. Last dance, because the last dance was the last dance. But it might be it might be that. We got France, powerhouse, talent factory, former winners in recent history. You know, still a team with some of the best players in the world. You got Champions League winners, you got World Cup winners, of course, given that they won the competition in recent history, 2018. Then we have the European champions, European giants, España. Between those three powerhouses, let's say, people might want to slip Portugal in there, but I ain't having that. Between those three, who do we think has the most, or who has the best chance of actually taking it that far? If you have another team you want to consider, you could tell me. I'll go with you first, that be.
Well, it's in Brazil.
Man, don't move so
No,
Carlo.
it's in Brazil. But France, Argentina, and Spain, just off of quality and how they are spoiled for choice, my answer would be France. Of course, Argentina were winners last time. Messi, of course, GOAT. It's hard to go against him, but I just feel like the squad that France have, just from back to front, they are stacked. Spain looking good too with the Lamine and the Nico combination and the Lenormands and but I just feel France is stacked and they have every single type of player needed to build the ultimate squad.
It's true.
Especially if Paul Pogba is back on. I mean,
some level.
he ain't too far off, He could still come back and I ain't going to say even Pogba even prime, but
No, but it's crazy.
80%
how Pogba
Pogba
could be
is-
coming to play a type of type role.
yes, so
Given-
quickly.
It's so quickly, I feel like we were just talking about Pogba. That means we get older. I feel like we were just talking about Pogba being, young talent, inexperienced thing. But if you consider Paul Pogba now, once he can, obviously get
It's left to be seen how
get
he
the struggles
was
past,
in Monaco.
had a long time away from the game that he loves. But I mean, you don't forget how to ride a bicycle.
Yeah, I don't see no reason
You
why.
know, I think once again he dancing shoes back on, he should be able to to contribute. And I do think if he's in the right headspace, having a figure like that in the dressing room could be really essential. I mean, he was there the last time they lifted the cup. He was very much a part of that whole dressing room and that whole structure, albeit at a much younger age. I think he can help to guide some of the young talent, given that he's a guy who was known for, being a little bit more eccentric, being a little bit more flashy, a little bit more flary, can sort of give them that guidance on how to translate your talent and your youthful energy into results on the pitch. So that's a good shout. I see that. Shaba was saying.
France, I like France as well. However, I think France's downfall or the problem for them, in my opinion, has always been Didier Deschamps. Right? He has a squad that has the potential to play better, but he plays very conservative football. That has worked for him before because they have won the World Cup. However, aside from that, they've lost multiple finals. They've lost the Euro finals at home. When Eder scored the goal in extra time, they lost the last World Cup final. They lost in the quarterfinals a few times in the Euros. So, despite him winning a World Cup, and credit to him for that, he has had much more failures than success.
Okay.
Than success. And I always think that he sets up the team a bit too pragmatic for the type of attacking flair and talent that they have, because they could do so much better. And this is something that I am going to mention with my team, who I am going to have as a potential dark horse, not necessarily my pick for the World Cup.
But,
And you guys may laugh, but I'm gonna go with England as a potential winner of the competition. Reason being,
they stacked as well.
they have a lot of players hitting their prime, young players who are at the peak of their game, like Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham, Harry Kane and Bukayo Saka, Cole Palmer. You know what I'm saying? They are stacked, and if there is a time for them, this would probably be it. They have Thomas Tuchel now under the helm, and I think that he'd bring something different than what Southgate was bringing. Same sort of defensive pragmatism that I was describing with Deschamps is what was Southgate's problem. So I think that Tuchel would come in with his flair and his foreign mindset because he's not an English manager. So he doesn't necessarily have a bias towards any player or play style. He's going to be independent with his thinking and his selections. So I have no doubt that he'll pick the team based on merit and not necessarily based on big names. And try to fit Palmer and Saka, Bellingham all together in the attack. If he has to bend someone, he will. I am very confident of that. So as a result, I think that England, who've been to semi-finals and finals and so recently, the squad, the core players there, including guys like Harry Maguire and Jordan Pickford, who we like to clown. But they've been there and
That's experience.
they've been there on the biggest stage for England. And I think that if any time would be a time for them to win, it would be next year. Right? With all that being said, I'm not going to pick them. Right? I think that Spain, the Spanish team that we saw who won the Euros last year, beating that same England team in the final, is just prime for, excuse the pun, it's just prime for explosion, just prime for an explosion, right? And it's not only Lamine Yamal, not only Pedri, but the likes of Dean Howson, the likes of Danny Carvajal. There's a lot of top players within that team. Right now, Rodri is fighting for Fabian Ruiz. Right now, Rodri is fighting to get back in the team over Zubimendi. Right? And that's the current Ballon d'Or winner. So that's what I'm saying. Spain is also spoiled for choice, just like what we were saying with France being a talent factory. And the only thing missing is a big clinical number 9, which has always been missing since the days of Fernando Torres and David Villa. Morata might have to play a false 9, someone like Sabal as a false 9, or even Daniel.
I know about to say the name of me know. I really wish like we did serious about the Daniel Mo false 9 thing, because Morata, the way you feel about Jackson is the way I feel about Alvaro.
Yeah, they're in the same category.
Incredibly experienced, somebody who has played at the clubs that he's played at, who's been in the moments he has been. You would think that I have the utmost confidence in that profile or that person, but he just doesn't inspire the heart.
That's the only thing that is giving me some pause with Spain, because in a competition
we just have a clone Fernando.
You need a 9. You need a 9.
We need prime Fernando Torres. That is what Spain need. We need not even the Chelsea, we want Liverpool.
So true.
Torres.
So true.
That profile there, mobile, linking up with the wings and so on, not afraid to drop in sometimes, but also still be in that presence. Bro, if Lamine and Nico have a focal point, if the midfielders, if Pedri and them have somebody who constantly pressing on the shoulder at the last defender, it's curtains for everybody.
Right, but that's not the case right now. So
Yes.
that's why I can't just put them out there as a favorite.
Dappy, do you think that the team that you've gone for, France, I mean, I know it might be late days to do something like this, but do you think France can benefit from the type of managerial change that England have made? I mean, Southgate took England to some new frontiers, right?
Let me just stop you right there.
But
Let's stop you right there, because Deschamps has already stated that he will be the coach and that will be his last.
No, but
job.
hypothetically,
Oh,
do
you mean
you
after?
think that no, just generally speaking, even if going into this competition, do you think that the team that he is the man, even though he's gonna be there, I'm asking if you think that his team and his players would have benefited from a similar type of change, bringing somebody.
Zidane.
You took the word from me. That's the direction I was pointing you guys in. Basically to say, going away from the pragmatism, moving away from the Southgate, moving away from the Deschamps, moving away from the Simeone type Taliban football, putting chains and shackles on your most talented players. And bringing in somebody, I mean, not a foreigner like Tuchel to the England system, but still a different type of coach in Zizou. I really do see, we know the French job is his dream job. I do think he might manage France or will manage France at some point. But I don't know. I can't knock the French Federation for backing Deschamps given his track record. But I'm just saying, it felt like the right time for him to leave was after the Euros.
It's quite difficult to say. I mean, Zidane could come in, or anybody could come in and bring flamboyance, attacking flair, and, fluidity, and, they have everything going forward, but then they might be leaky at the back. So while the pragmatism might be holding them back a bit, there just needs to be this middle ground where you are organized, you are solid, but you are free to express, the attacking flair and so forth, and just mix it about, just be free on the field instead of just stuck to the rigid farm tactics and formation and so forth. I feel like it's really tough to say, but yeah, we could get more goals, but might be leaky at the back. Yeah.
Zizou is gonna eventually get the job, and in his time at Madrid, he was not necessarily Pep Guardiola. You know what I'm saying? With his football, we did play some good stuff, but it's not like he was the most
Tactical
expressive, manager and reinvented the wheel. So I don't think he would go and do much different than Deschamps, to be fair, in terms of. But he would definitely allow the players to express
And
themselves
that's what
more.
I'm saying, because he's such a good man manager that I think that I don't think he is like a slacker, so he would allow them to drop in the discipline levels or anything like that. I think he would still demand a high level of commitment. But him being just that different style, you might see a little bit more of that creativity coming
and then the
out
aura as well might,
of the players.
Aura
And
is
the
a serious thing.
Aura is a serious thing, because
It's
not to say Deschamps isn't a
Legendary
a
as
legend
well.
in his own right.
Correct.
Not to say that,
Yeah.
but just
Zidane we
the
talking about.
generation a little bit closer and support. Man, we've been having some great discussions here on this episode of Global Sports from a Caribbean perspective. I am your host, Prime
Dops.
Shaba.
I remember is one
GSCP.
GSCP. If you're anything like us, you grew up watching sports, loving sports, you have your favorite teams, your favorite clubs, your favorite players. We are here bringing you global sports from a Caribbean perspective.